Welcome to the SENDcast. My name is Dale Pickles, Managing Director of B Squared and the host of the SENDcast, the podcast for special educational needs and disability. In a world where there is less guidance, less money, more demand and continual changes, teachers, SENCOs, leaders and in reality all staff need a way to keep up which fits in with their lives, and the SENDcast is the answer. And also it's great to get that same message to parents and other professionals as well. In this episode, we discuss sticky learning. How can you help learning to really stick? And that was with my guest, Dr. Susie Nyman. Susie is a regular on the podcast and was the curriculum manager at the Sixth Form College in Farnborough, but she's now retired and has her feet up. Or not, just doing lots of other things. Susie is a master of multi-sensory teaching and spends lots of time sharing her knowledge. The SENDcast is created and produced by us here at B Squared, as well as our assessment products and our evidence and parental engagement platform, EverSense. We also run online training sessions and CPD that we call SENDcast sessions. And if you go to the SENDcast website, you'll see a range of over 150 training sessions. The sessions often feature the same amazing podcast guests, but are more formal with slides that you can also download. We run 9 live free sessions each year, which you can join in at the Q&A at the end, so get involved. And we also run free SEND briefings twice a year, so you can keep up to date with all the changes in the world of SEND. You can find out more about our training sessions and join the free SEND briefings by going to the SENDcast website. Now, let's get on with that podcast. In this week's show, we are discussing sticky learning. How can you help learning to really stick? And my guest this week is the one and only, the legendary Dr. Susie Nyman, who recently retired from being the curriculum manager at the Sixth Form College in Farnborough. And she received a Pearson Lifetime Achievement Award for 29 years service at the college. And she recently attended a garden party at Buckingham Palace where she was perfect and didn't do anything Essexy at all. And she went there because she was nominated by the DFE. Susie is an international speaker, podcaster, exam board moderator and CPD trainer, and she shares her knowledge and experience about multi-sensory teaching and working with SEND students. Welcome back, Susie.
Thank you very much, Dale and Percy Pigs. We have cracked them open. My favourite ones are the brown ones. I think you like the pink ones. She's
brought in Percy Pigs and Pals, and I love the fact that in the information you sent me, and you literally, this is out of the document she sent me, Susie will base her discussion with Dale and Percy Pig on the topics below linked to sticky learning. I love the fact you talk about Percy Pig in your information that you send me.
Why not? It's a tradition. We have to have them.
Right, you talk, I'm going to eat.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, making teaching and learning sticky. How do we do that? We'll do onion teaching, looking at that in layers, Hass's excellence teaching model, and follow success. S is simple, U is unexpected, C is concrete, C is credible, E is emotional, and S is stories. So, the Hass Excellence teaching model talks about student learning. We're looking at assessment, instructions, instructional strategies, learning activities, design and structure, and learning goals. And I've thought for many, many years that teaching is like an onion. You start with a core and then you do different activities in different layers to ensure that student understands. But you need to make that information simple in order to make it sticky. So you're going to find the core or the fundamentals of that project and ask, what is the core message of this topic? Or what are the big questions to answer? Communicate as simply as possible using small units and analogies or familiar concepts. And so, for example, you might relate, the reactivity series in chemistry to a game of football and how fast the players are, or something like that. Often teachers teach too much, which causes cognitive overload for our students. And we need to prioritise on those fundamental points so that they actually understand the key fundamental information. So keep it simple. You might use a mind map. Now, some students do find mind maps difficult. You need to talk about the key words and challenge what is in, relevant, and what is out, irrelevant. So they might create a mind map and the stuff on there is incorrect, so you need to check that. So you could set that mind map in class. Each student could create their own mind map. Or, as I always say, Dale, always go large in life. So you get a massive piece of paper. Sometimes we go to B&Q and get lining paper, or you can even get banqueting roll, go really large and make a giant mind map on the table, coloured felt tips. They absolutely love it. So share that core information, explain it as simply as you can. How does this work, whatever you're talking about? Anchor that core in with the students in concepts they already know. For example, they might know about oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. And so you can anchor it to something that they know already. Give them that glossary of terms. Learn the glossary of terms, use mnemonics, words and pictures. Then you're using two sides of your brain. Make that glossary active. Make it into a little key ring. Make maybe a mind map glossary, group those keywords and test yourself on that glossary to make sure those students understand those keywords. But when we're using scientific vocabulary, Neil Postman said, biology is not plants and animals. It's a language about plants and animals. Astronomy is not planets and stars. It's a way of talking about planets and stars. And whilst at university, I was speaking to Dale earlier, I said that I shared a flat with multicultural group of students. And one side of me was a girl who was from Greece, another side, it was actually a girl from Italy. And they used to confirm what the roots of the scientific words were. It was fascinating. For example, stoma means mouth in Greek. So, I was at a centre in London, near Greenwich, and I was moderating in this office one day, and next door they had a French lesson, and they were going, just like this. And I thought, hello, that might catch on. You never know. So I clap the key words and make it simple so that the students can remember those key words. We might even clap the key words to music. So if we're talking about the heart, Michael Jackson's Beat It, aorta, marvellous. So that's good. But actually make it simple. Look at the structure of those science words. For example, chloro means green, photo means light, poly means many, therm means heat, and hypo means below, whereas hyper means above. Look at the structure of those science words. Prefix, root and suffix. So exo is the prefix, allo is the root, and lysis is the suffix. So the prefix, you might have hypo means below, hyper means above, exo means outside, like exothermic or exoskeleton. So then here, the root, you might have chloro. Chloro means green. Iso means the same or equal. Bio means biology. Photo means light. And then you might have a suffix, phobic, hate, for example, hydrophobic. You might have something like phil, which means plant, such as chlorophyll. Side is a killer of, for example, a pesticide. And looking at those simple words, look at the etymology or origin of those words. Thermometer, exothermic, endothermic, thermal, geothermal, all coming from that Greek root meaning heat. Okay. So for those rules to boost their science teaching, you can have preconceptions. A lot of my students think that red blood is red and, oxygenated blood is red, deoxygenated blood is blue. And then I tell them, no, it's just convention. It's not actually blue. They go, oh my goodness, you have to sort of unravel these things that have been taught in the past. Self-regulation, modelling. Oh my goodness, I've got lots of modelling here. Hello, here's one I prepared earlier. Here is my volcano. And you can actually erupt that if you use tomato sauce and sodium bicarbonate. But modelling exam questions too, showing them how to answer these exam questions, breaking them down, explaining, is it a one or a two-part question, etc. Memory, learning things by rote. Practical work in science or geography or history, scientific terminology, and then finally, feedback. So for teaching new words in terminology, speak and use the words out loud. Esophagus instead of esophagus. Stomach. And we sit there, and I actually have my stick. It's in my suitcase over there, and I conduct it. Esophagus. Like this.
I wasn't sure where you're going to go with the stick. If you don't do it right, I hit them.
Oh, no, I don't hit them. No, I just conduct them. And they quite like that. And I have the conducting stick ready. I think, come on, sit up, off we go. Aorta. And we speak the whole words to do with the heart and clap them and conduct them. And eventually they know them by rote. It's marvellous. Write the words on an interactive whiteboard. Here's one I prepared earlier. So just write those key words on that interactive whiteboard. Then you can play the weakest link. Break down into parts. Esophagus. Match instead of stomach. Repeat the word a few times until they've got it. Discuss the etymology. As I said before, Greek means stoma. The Greek for stoma means mouth. Give an example in the sentence, and regularly visit that terminology using games such as bingo or the weakest link when we turn it over, and have those students got the right words or not, and if not, we play it again until the whole class get it. If you're going to use Rosenshine, begin the lesson with a short review of the previous learning, present the new material in small steps, ask a large number of questions, provide models, and make sure those students practice. But we need to check for the student understanding in order to get that high success rate.
And with this, it's starting with that simple, is you're starting with those foundations, the building blocks. And it's important that you don't rush on.
Yeah.
You've got to make sure those foundations are solid. They understand that morphology of the words, the understanding of the word. It helps understand the meaning. You need to make sure you've got those building blocks solid before you build on. And there's often a rush to get through things quickly, but that's where kind of it starts to unravel at the top because it was never solid at the bottom. So it's making sure you've got those solid foundations, starting with a simple, starting maybe slower than you think, just to make sure everyone's got it correct before you move on, before you really start diving in. Make sure you've got it solid, that they get that, they understand it at that level. Now I've got that knowledge, I can use it.
Yeah, and provide those scaffolds for each task you're doing. You might get them to do the keywords, and then you might provide the keywords and use them in a sentence or a fill in the gaps, or you might use those words in a tick in the box. Require and monitor that independent practice, so maybe set them an exam question, see how they're doing, and engage them in weekly and monthly reviews. You might have like 20 questions or play Kahoot or quizzes or something like that. So keeping it simple is very important. But also, as a teacher, I don't only teach what they need to know. I also understand what they don't know. And understanding what they get wrong every time enables you to reinforce those particular areas that they struggle with. So here, you might have the heart. Hello, here's one I prepared earlier. These are really nice. These are giant microbes, so here's a nice heart, and Dale's just going to have a quick feel of that. There you go, Dale. And so you can work out what is the right hand of the heart and the left hand of the heart, and that here, coming out here, we've got the aorta. You see the branch of the aorta, that's the pulmonary aorta here, pulmonary artery. And at the top, we've got the atria, at the bottom, the ventricles. These are the pulmonary veins here. Okay. Quite nice that, isn't it? It doesn't look too scary, that heart. If you've got a diagram, you might even use, instead of Percy Pigs, you might use M&Ms. Always a good excuse to go to the M&M shop in Leicester Square. If you want to get your blue and red collections, okay, if you want to do blood flow through the heart, keep it simple. You could just use blue and red paper and write the keywords on and then sequence it through the heart on the different colours of paper. Now here's one I prepared earlier. Here are some bananagrams.
Good old bananagrams.
So you can get your letters out and you can sequence things, and particularly for students with ADHD, they love bananagrams because they can just fiddle with them. And one afternoon we were doing some revision and there was a group of students, about 4 of them. They said, "Can we have the bananagrams, please?" And they laid them all out with all the words in a crisscross of what they didn't understand. And then they called me over, "Can you explain this word, please? What does it mean and what's it do? What's its structure? What's its function?" So that was another good use of the famous bananagrams, apart from checking spelling. We might play the weakest link. What is the biggest artery that leaves the aorta? Write it down on your board and then play the weakest link, flip it and see who gets it right. But what I noticed with dyslexic students is that when they read a question, you read the question this way, for example, but actually the way they see the question is not as a straight line, but actually as a family tree. So if you're asking students to write about 2 different conditions, for example, celiac disease and coronary heart disease, you could set that up as family tree. At the top, conditions, 2 branches. First branch, Heather has celiac disease. John has celiac disease. And then underneath those second branches, what is the cause and what is the effect? And when that student sees it as a family tree, Dale, just like this, they get it. And also any exam questions where they can't see it linearly, they can then draw it out as a family tree.
I think it's reading an exam question as it is written, but understanding it is often breaking it apart. It's not in the order, it's the key bits in there.
Yeah.
And you've done your exam boards and all that lot, and the difference between analyse and evaluate and all those sorts of things. Yeah. It really helps.
Now, there was one boy, keep it simple, that came to me in my dyslexia club last year and said, "I can't sequence the information and write an essay about a particular part in World War II history." And what he did was he got a free license for Widget and then sequenced the information in a series of Widget pictures. And then he went away and then he could write his essay. And he continued to use Widget for quite a while until he ran out of the license. And he did his essays like that. I also had a girl who couldn't sequence her studies for psychology. So she used Widget too, and there's an example here with Bandora with the social learning theory, and she's done a sequence of pictures there that they've used. So that's sort of just giving them a little bit of scaffolding, but keeping it simple so they don't feel overloaded, so they don't get cognitive overload. Okay, the unexpected. Oh, I do like the element of surprise. And what you'll notice, because Dale actually has access to my slides, is that, hello, here's one I prepared earlier. Oh, there's my balloon.
I never know what to expect when Susie comes in.
I don't tell him because...
And although I have access to your slides, I do not look because I like the unexpected.
You like the element of surprise. Now, I went into the newsagents when I went to go and look after Mum, and I said, what I need is some really big balloons. So she furnished me with some of these lovely punch ball balloons. Actually, I won't do it too big just in case it explodes, but that will do for now. And so here, the unexpected, you don't know that's going to happen. You don't know you're going to punch that balloon. Well, you know, for those people with ADHD that can't sit still, they love this. But what you can do is you can use it to teach how the blood flows through the heart. So you can squeeze the top, atria contract, blood goes through the tricuspid and bicuspid valves, goes into the ventricles, they contract and the blood goes into the pulmonary artery or pushes up through the aorta. And so you can use it like this. And some of the students really like to be able to use the balloons to show that. You can even get a pen and you can draw the shape of the heart in there, and they can practice the words and actually how blood flows through the heart. So there's a balloon for you, Dale, for later. You can play with that.
Thank you very much. And just to say, if you are listening to this podcast, you can also probably watch this on YouTube as well.
Excellent.
And not just listen to the wonder of Susie, but watch the wonder of Susie.
Thank you. Pique their interest. Oh, have you heard about this? I do like amazing but true facts. That, you know, to just tell them some information. How do you think this happens? Give them an element of a surprise, or you might give the students, huh? Or, aha, this is what we're going to do. Break up the routine. Use the gap theory, what students know versus what we want them to know. Open that gap. Have some curiosity, and then fill it with knowledge, which is very nice. So a boy came up to me when I was at the oratory school and said, Mr. Anderson, the leaf. So I said, oh, OK, let's make it out of funky foam. It was quite surprising, I thought. So we made it out of funky foam, and I just swung by the co-op on the way. So I picked up some biscuits. We made the structure of the leaf through biscuits. And in COVID, I made the structure of leaf in King George V playing fields out of leaves. But what I was asked for was to give a sequence of different activities you could do in order to teach the digestive system. And a lady called Gillian Zoscher asked me to do this for the Learning Difference Conventions. So here, you might have the key words, for example, for the digestive system on stickers. Then you might use balloons to actually make the digestive system. We have done that on a previous podcast, haven't we?
Yes. The first time I think I met you, you made a digestive system. It taught me what I need to know about podcasting with Susie.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Next bit, you might use bananagrams, you might do dominoes, key rings, sequence it with post-it notes. You could even play the weakest link, and you could make it out of Play-Doh or tin foil, and then write a storyboard. A day in the life of a cheese sandwich. So here, in my little PowerPoint here, I've got a nice picture of tin foil, doing the digestive system, and also another one of Play-Doh. And a girl I was working with years ago, she wanted to pass her GCSE biology, and we did this at home in the kitchen. We actually made the digestive system out of tin foil, but most often we actually make it out of Play-Doh in class. Point out those keywords: mouth, oesophagus, stomach, liver, gallbladder, pancreas, small intestine, large intestine, colon, rectum, anus. Now, what I do like, it's not necessarily science, but we're sort of bordering on the maths. I do like a nice bit of symmetry, Ardale. And what you'll notice on the table are a few little organisms. Here we've got a butterfly. Dale's holding up a nice cricket. We've got lots and lots of interesting bugs flying around. Here we go. And Dale's got a fly. And the reason I put that fly there is because actually my PhD was on flies. I made insect pheromone tricosine for houseflies. But here, the pièce de résistance is the symmetry with butterflies. And you can never have enough butterfly wings, Dale, can you?
You cannot. It appears.
No, and this is beautiful because it's all multicoloured, and you can see the symmetry in the two sides and the two wings there. You might have a ladybird, you can see some nice symmetry there. You might have a lovely fly here, where you can see the symmetry between the two sides there. Interesting how to sex flies. Males, the eyes are close together. Females, they are far apart. Amazing but true fact.
So is that considered close together, or is that considered far away?
I think that might be a male, yes. You might have beetles, you might have ants, where you can see that lovely symmetry. I might just leave my wings on for a minute. Okay. Unexpected surface tension. Go to the beach and find out about sandcastles, where cohesion is the water molecules attracted to one another. Surface tension, the water causes elastic bridges between the grains of sand, and when the ratio of sand to water is just right, these bridges are perfect strength for building sandcastles. Now, I wanted to mention maths with food and fractions, because one I prepared earlier is this marvellous hamburger. So you could see, you could slice that in half, nice bit of symmetry, and you could create fractions. So you could cut the hamburger in half, get halves, quarters, eighths, etc. But why not eat your way through a nice cake and show what a nice half is, what a quarter, what an eighth? Alternatively, why not learn maths with Percy Pig? Because then you can cut it, you can do a nice bit of symmetry, cut it in half, eat one half, etc. There we go. So that's why I had to pass you the hamburger. I was going to throw it at you.
I thought you were going to throw it at me. I was a bit scared.
Oh, okay.
I was a bit scared. I thought it was going to come flying, but it was
okay,
passed
well, I was passed this time. You might use paper chains to link key characters in a book that you're reading, for example, Great Expectations. Now, you could even use a football. Oh, I did throw it. Your face was tremendous there, Dave.
I was not expecting that, but I caught it.
Yes. So on that football, and you won't be able to read it now because it was a load of exam questions I wrote on there for GCSE biology. It is very faded now, but that is the original ball. So you could use it for biology questions. In my example here from the Multisensory Teaching Toolkit, they've actually got questions about geography, such as what is a sub-aerial process? So you could use it for anything.
What is meant by the term population?
There you go.
Nice.
There we go.
I even actually had to get my reading glasses on to read that.
Yeah, a lot of it is fading on the balls actually reduced in size. But the boys really enjoyed that, using that at the oratory school a couple of nights before their exam when they did their GCSE biology. You might actually want to act out something. For example, religious studies. Joseph. Every Friday night, this is not a joke, we would act out the whole of Joseph. Way, way back many centuries ago, not long after the Bible began, my son would wear a tea-towel. And then we would hold the torch above his head as if he was in the spotlight. And then I was going to bring it, but I thought, actually, I've got far too much stuff to bring today. But I actually have the original multicoloured dressing gown. I wore my coat with golden lining, and he would take it. Give me my colour coat, my amazing colour coat. And he would then put it on, and he was so proud. Every Friday night we did the show. He was so excited when they actually did it at school because he knew all the words, word for word. And we'd actually seen it in Windsor, London and Oxford 10 times. He loved it so much. So
when you said we did it, I'm trying to recall which part of your life. Was this the university thing?
No. No, this is when my son was sort of prep school age, primary school age. We used to do it every Friday night. And if we were going out, we had to find a family who knew Joseph because they couldn't babysit unless they could sing it and act it out with him because he enjoyed it so much. He doesn't do it anymore, by the way. There we go. So that's really good. We're now going on to concrete, where we have to have clear ideas to help those students understand and remember how. Use demonstrations or hands-on experiences appear to the senses such as sight, sound, touch, taste, smell to explain material. This is multisensory teaching. Ground concepts using analogies and illustrations. And spend time thinking about these rather than the content. So, for example, I talk about blood moving around in arteries is a bit like going down a whitewater rapid, and then in veins it's very slow, so it's like the Basingstoke Canal, and the valves are like locks, and then they get it. You might be going over something, and then instead of the students just listening, this year I actually got the mini whiteboards, and then I got them to write down what they were going to do for their coursework, or what they were going to do for their exam questions. So you can see here different students have written different things, and they've got it in their own writing, then they can follow it. Concrete. Bandora's Bobo doll. We have a blow-up Bobo doll, and in psychology they bash it, showing aggression, and they can copy, and then they can remember it because they've done it. Hello, here's one I prepared earlier. I actually made this pottery volcano, and you can erupt it with sodium bicarbonate and tomato sauce. And I made all the different types of lava on the side of it. There we go. That's one of my favourite models. There is a T-shirt that's called a Curioscope Virtuality T-shirt, and you can get the T-shirt and then get an iPhone, and then you can look inside the body, which is really nice. To make the students' notes concrete, we used electronic revision cards, and the students would use words and pictures, and then they might put small, skinny, flexible, so skinny writing, sort of flexible writing, biconcave disc, large surface area, those words in large, and they're made in the bone marrow, so they've got a bone, and then they're written inside, made in the bone marrow. If they say transports oxygen, carbon dioxide, they've got a little lorry with the carbon dioxide and oxygen in there. They've done the same for the white blood cells. But for the concrete, read and write clips. They might get some text from the internet or from one of their books, and you can use clips in read and write and then gather those clips. So all the key words could be blue or pink or green.
Is your phone ringing? Oh, it's gone, it's fine. Oh, it's back again. Oh, we'll continue. We'll stop in a second.
Can you delete that bit?
No, we're going to keep going.
Oh, right.
It's fine. It's
Are you
half
sure?
the fun. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry about the phone.
That's fine.
Okay, so concrete, neurons, make a model of that. So we've made neurons before out of pipe cleaners and beads. And actually, I'd just like to report that my sister was talking about dementia to physios last week. And I went home and I whizzed down to the newsagents and got some pipe cleaners and made sensory neurons and motor neurons, and the cell body that contains the nucleus I made out of water balloons. And she used them yesterday in her talk to the physios to explain dementia, which was amazing. Yeah. So it's now gone to Newcastle. Okay, here what we have are neurons. Here's one I prepared earlier. So what I do is I give these to the students in class and I say, shake the cell body, shake the axon, shake the Schwann cells, shake the dendrites. And they do it, and then they can remember it. So making that concrete with the doing. And colour coding it, the different parts of the axon. So by colour coding it, you use synesthesia and you remember it better. But one of the boys remembered it by using example from McDonald's about buying chicken nuggets for explaining how the synapse work. And it really worked well. And they made these revision notes between them in Google Slides. And then the boy explained using buying chicken nuggets how a neuron fires, which was absolutely amazing. Because he got it, because it was related to something that he was interested in, which was good. We might make it concrete by using little, when you go to the pound shop and you see those fluorescent stars, sometimes they use them for bargain things like 10p or something, you know, in the shops. You might use those for ions like lithium ion or sodium ion or chloride ion, and then you can link them together. You might use lolly sticks for alkanes or paper chains for alkanes. And then you might even do a flowering plant. You could either dissect it yourself, or you could actually have your own one. Here's one I prepared earlier, Dale. And you have seen this one before, I think.
Is this a shower curtain?
No, this is a yellow one that I made myself. Here's one I prepared earlier. Hang on. There we go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Good. So you can make that out of this plastic tablecloth, and you can draw on it using Posca pens, and then you can actually place the labels on the mat, and then the students will remember it. Here are the labels. And please note, the female parts are pink, the male parts are blue, and other bits are green and yellow. So you can colour code those too. So that's very useful. Or we can use zips for concrete to explain about how DNA replicates using the zips, undoing them, DNA unwinds and unzips, complementary strands then link together. We have complementary nucleotides. A goes with T and G goes with C. So adenine goes with guanine. Thymine goes with adenine. Sorry, adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine until a new strand of DNA forms. That's called semi-conservative replication, because half is conserved from the parent to the offspring. We can make models out of biology or do pie charts using real pies. Chemistry words you might link to something you know already, like Anna's chopping onions, it's scary. So anion is negative, and a cat on an ironing board is positive. Do you like any of those examples, Dale?
I do, because it kind of links back to that first bit about simple, because you're not just writing down, you're helping people see and visualise what it is they're learning. It make the concrete parts, you're going, right, so this is what I mean, this is what it looks like, this is how it acts. It's keeping it really simple, but making it, as you say, the multi-sensory. It's bringing in more than just writing and listening. It's making you do, it's making you hold, it's making you use all your senses. And as you know, because you keep telling me, the more senses you use, the more it embeds that learning.
It does. It's brilliant. So the credible bit is try before you buy. Test it and experience it. Show relationships so that they can understand it better. So try before you buy. Try windsurfing before you buy the board. Try cycling before you buy the bike. Try horse riding before you buy the horse. But for sociology, remembering those theorists, I know that one of the study support teachers asked one of the students to put some of the theorists on the equipment in the gym they went to, so every time they went there they could remember that theorist with a particular piece of gym equipment. You might use dominoes, whereby you have one word in English one side and the other side in German, and you link them all up. You might use the periodic table and walk through that, and walk through lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium in the group 1. Or you might walk across it, and then you can, as you walk across it, you can then say what the electronic configurations were. I actually made it out of tiles. I used to get the boys to write on it what the first 20 were. One of the boys, William, he couldn't remember protons, neutrons, electrons, so we made them out of marbles and made rings out of pottery that he could put the marbles on. Sean said to me, I don't understand the physics, the words and the symbols. So we made them on different cards, and then on one side was the words and the other card was the symbol, and we linked them together. And after about 3 or 4 times doing that, he could remember it. This afternoon we are enjoying talking our way using Percy Pig. So why not eat your way through science by doing a distance time graph using strawberry shoelaces for fast and raspberry shoelaces for slow. Toys. I mean, I've bought a lot of insects and beetles today, but you could get one of those wind-up toys. And so wind the toy up, that's potential energy. Let it go, let that toy move, that's kinetic energy. But do it at the fun fair. Do Newton's third law. Get on the bumper cars. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Boom, you bump together and then you come apart. There's nothing more exciting than playing the bumper cars, isn't there? And also, if you're throwing your brother or sister on the floor because you're practicing your judo, you've got the force going down, the force coming up off the mats. Okay. Did you enjoy the credible examples, Dale?
I always do. I always love that multi-sensory thing because we've done it a lot on the podcast. It is your bread and butter, isn't it?
Yes, and the emotional here is the next one in success, so we're nearly at the end. Emotional, how do you get them to care about their ideas? Help students care and feel to take action. Appeal to something other than their heads. I'll tell you what, I've got sequin cushions in my classroom and they come in, that's my one, and they sit there and they just stroke them. It calms them down. And then at the end of the lesson they leave me love hearts or thank you or a big smiley face.
Aww.
Yeah, so that's nice. Emotional element transforms analytical or abstract and hits the student in their gut. So emotional, my friends, the puppets. Here we go. So here's Benny and Lucy. So how does that student feel, and you do find with SEND students that they might not want to talk about the answer, but they'll talk through the puppet. And that's quite fascinating, that they will actually give you the answer, but they think the puppet's giving it to them. There. Okay. You might use the puppets for actually explaining some science. Hello, here is George the tortoise. Do you know about George the tortoise, Dale?
I do not know. I've not met George before.
You haven't met George before? Well, George was in the Galapagos. He was one of the oldest tortoises. He actually died, so haven't got there. But, George was the oldest tortoise on the Galapagos. So, you could talk about George the tortoise by using this lovely puppet.
And George was the one who met Charles Darwin.
Yes, that's it. Yes. George is very famous. There we go.
Try to get to wave to the camera.
Ah. And you might have emotional case studies. They might be talking about someone in their family, or they might have a video they watch and then they talk about those emotional case studies. And then they feel that belonging. If they have that emotional case study and they're looking after one another, so that's really nice. And you might be looking at their needs. So grandma and granddad, his granddad, you might be looking at his needs, what his physical, intellectual, emotional and social needs. And it could be that they link that and they remember it because it sounds familiar, and they sort of get attached to granddad because he's had heart failure, stroke, cancer, arthritis and edema. So they can talk about his physical needs, his intellectual needs, his language, his emotional, social and financial needs. There we go. So we're going to link it emotionally to grandma and granddad. I've just got granddad there. Emotional food. Physical. I always think of physical as pork pies. I don't know why. Intellectual. Cherry pie. Because when people went for an interview for university with the professor in Bangor years ago, they used to have to go and eat a cherry pie. That was one of the tests. And how they, what they did with the cherry depends on whether they got the job or not. Did they spit it out? Did they put it on the fork? Did they not eat the cherry pie? What did they do with it? It was a really interesting test. Emotional. I like lemon meringue pie. Do you? I always used to make it for my family years ago, so I find that is an emotional pie.
It's a very lovely pie.
Yeah, and social, I put an apple pie because my mother-in-law always made an apple pie for us at Christmas when we went there. So for the pie, P could be the picture, draw a simple sketch. I, information, circle the key words. E, equation. And S, solve that equation. But emotional is always nutrition, isn't it? So you could actually make a cake, put questions to that cake, cook the cake, then ask and answer the same questions after when eating it. Okay. Do you like cake, Dale?
It has been known that I like cake. It has been known that people think I like cake a lot, and I do.
And are your daughters good cake bakers?
They are, yes. My youngest made us blondie.
Oh, lovely.
Last week, so that was
Very nice.
Disappeared very quickly.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Nice.
And my last one are stories. Now, earlier in the other podcast, Auntie Olive, she slipped out because she used to phone on Sundays. She was from Lancashire, and she was deaf. So get students to listen. Stories are attention grabbers, and everyone likes stories. The mental stimulation or visualisation is the best thing to practice for improving performance. Create a repository of stories. And the thing is, Friday afternoon with the puppets sitting, I do like to do the old To Ronnie's sketch. Was it Ronnie Corbett used to sit in the chair telling stories, didn't he, years ago? So stories of Henry VIII. And you might use that song, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. I know that people use a song for that. Divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, da 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 da. Yeah.
I didn't know that one.
Didn't know that one. So that's something you can chant. Stories about the Vikings. What happened with the Vikings? You might act it out. We've done some sensory stories. We've done it with you, actually. The little fir tree, so you might do sensory stories there. Or stories shopping in France in the boulangerie or la buste or boucherie or pharmacy. And what happens when you go in there and what are you going to buy? Act it out. French verbs, you might go je suis, tu es, and you might be using post-its for that or mind mapping. Stories, English language, for example, in spectacles. We might use dominoes there. Where you've got the character on one side and a sort of description of who they are and what they do. Now, for our stories, we base them on particular people, and we use John. John's the roofer, and he's had a bad day. He's going to get much worse. For 45 years, John's heart hasn't missed a beat, but today it's going to let him down with dire consequences for his entire body, a ball of muscle no bigger than his fist. John's heart pumps enough to fill 40 barrels each day, and then all of a sudden he has a heart attack. And they watch that video and they learn the process of what happens with a heart attack, what happens in the ambulance, what happens when you get to hospital, ECGs and things like that. So they can then hook on that story. If they have a question about heart attacks or heart disease, coronary heart disease in an exam question, they can see John. They can remember that video. I've got one here, stories about the Children Act. Did you ever see that one, Dale, when it came out?
The
British Judge Fiona May and the Jehovah's Witness?
No.
Okay, so there was a Children Act story. So when we do legislation and you're looking at whether do you think it was a good idea for the judge to say the welfare for the child is paramount, but the child doesn't want to have a blood transfusion. He is 17 years, 9 months, so the judge has to make the decision. He has a blood transfusion. Then you can look at the morals and the ethics of that story when you have to teach about morals and ethics, and they can hook onto that story and then they understand it. We've also used one called 5 feet apart for cystic fibrosis, and again, if they had cystic fibrosis in a paper, they think Stella there. I spoke earlier about the boy creating the story of a synapse linked to buying Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's nuggets, and that worked really well. But it was a story that I went upstairs late one night and I said to the boys, "Are you okay?" They said, "No, I don't understand mitosis." So I said, "Well, why don't we use pipe cleaners?" So look, here's a few I prepared earlier. Now these are giant pipe cleaners.
They are much bigger, or I've shrunk.
Yes. So there's a chromosome that's absolutely massive. So you could teach mitosis using these or even smaller ones. The students like doing that. There we go. Am I in the zone?
You're in the zone.
Marvellous. So there's my pipe cleaners. You can teach it like that and relate it to a game of football. So in interphase, the chromosomes are unwound. At prophase, they become visible. They come onto the players will come out onto the pitch. Metaphase, they line up along the equator. That's in the middle. Anaphase, they move to opposite poles of the cell. And telophase, 2 new daughter cells are made. 2 new teams are formed. So if you relate it to football, the students get it better, understand it better. You might relate stories to famous scientists, for example. You might relate stories to famous computer people. I don't know.
Generally, I think if you can, whatever you're trying to learn, if you can link it to a story, if you can link it to something you've experienced or anything like that, it's going to help everyone's memory. I always do when I get a new car. I always come up with a story, or I look at the letters and it makes me think of something. And my mother-in-law's, the last 3 letters were H, G and Z, which just made me think of Haagen-Dazs.
Oh, wow.
So I just sit there and you create, so you look at it and go, right, what can I create from this? And it was like Haagen-Dazs, and that was how I remembers it. My first car, the last 3 letters was YGH, and it was You Go Home. Because it was a car, so you go home.
Yeah, that's really good.
So, I think it's a memory trick that lots of people say that if you like, even if you're trying to remember the order of cards, turn it into a story, make it something happen.
Yeah.
And it's the same, and it really works.
Those people that remember long sequences of numbers and things, they use stories to remember that as well. And for stories, and I said earlier with chemistry reactivity series, you could relate to a game of rugby or on, which boy is the fastest, which is the most reactive, which one's the slowest, which one is the least reactive. Is it potassium, most reactive, which boy is the fastest runner, which is the least reactive, which one is the slowest runner? And they can learn it like that. And here, Dale, I did promise you that we would get out the monarch butterfly.
Did it drop on the floor? Where did the monarch butterfly go? It's behind your chair. I can just see it.
Hang on. 1 second.
Have to mind your wings.
I'm just going to take my wings off. There it is. I had so many things today. It's fallen off there. So the story's the monarch butterfly. Now for my 30 years service at the Sixth Form College, Farnborough, we were given a £50 Amazon voucher. Now what would you spend it on? Would you spend it on a nice perfume or a meal out? No, I wanted this. This is the monarch butterfly egg. Okay, you open that one here and that turns into the larva and the pupa. There we go. There is the pupa of the monarch butterfly. Okay, there we go. It's coming. It's just need to stuff it in there. There is the pupa. Look, and you can shut the zip. It's like magic. There's the pupa. There's the pupa. Okay. Egg, larva, pupa. And what happens with the adult is that the adult emerges. It comes from Canada and it flies for about 2,000 miles into Mexico, where it overwinters in the mountains. Just like that. It is amazing. Okay? Built on the milkweed plant. And it looks like that. It's totally amazing. So there's my monarch butterfly. Now, who's gonna forget that? Actually,
I still can't. Something that size, that small, flies 2,000 miles. That's phenomenal.
It is. It's an amazing butterfly. You might have a story as well, such as the trolley problem. You might watch a video about that. One of the law teachers actually, she would put post-it notes get the students to put post-it notes on the sink in their bathroom to learn about a particular case they were looking at about a burst pipe. I think it's Rylands and Fletcher. And so they would learn that story like that. You might also use stories to help you remember information. So you might be watching a video or a story about, for example, Death in Paradise, and you might be writing about a particular place in French, and because it is a French colony, you can then get the information in French on Wikipedia, and then you can look at that, mind map the information, and then create their slides and use 2 slides to a page as an example of sort of revision cards that you're going to follow to do your presentation. So, to be honest, Dale, make teaching and learning sticky so that it sticks and you remember it. I haven't actually got post-it notes out to stick on our heads today. I was going to do that, but I think I've done plenty. Taking initiative and using the element of surprise, which I think we have done today.
You always give me the element of surprise. Always.
Yeah, and make it stick. Get students to realise that they have learned what they've learnt, retain what they've learnt, and recall what they've learnt. Change behaviours and achieve the best results ever. I think it's important for all those teachers out there listening to this to be an inspirational teacher. Be brave, be kind, and be patient. You can do it. And if you believe, you can achieve, because that's written over my door. Use the person-centred approach. And for success, think of one concept from your class. Apply as many of the 6 elements as you can. Simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional, and stories. And share what you come up with. I hope that was useful. And the top 10 here, an exciting idea per class. Have a punchline. Generate knowledge through inquiry. Use examples and more examples. Role play. You don't all have to play Joseph every Friday night. Make it relatable is what we said, didn't we? Create a memorable class experience or demonstration. They never forget me making the digestive system out of balloons.
I've witnessed it twice and I will not forget it.
Yes. Enjoy the energy of the class and work with him. Use music to relax the student. Make connections, improve brain development, and remind the class of those key takeaways. So what I've talked about today, Dale, is onion teaching, looking at that teaching, having the core principle and teaching in layers, Hass's excellent teaching model, and then success. Simple, unexpected, concrete, credible, emotional, and don't forget the stories. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's I always like the onions. I always thought you start out on the outside, but you start talking at the core. But it is that peeling it away. It's those different layers, and it's kind of starting with that key information and using it and peeling it. And that surprising bit, that's always a random thing. Like, oh, this is a butterfly that it flies 2,000 miles. You're like, adding those random bits, and I think the order you do that it can be really important as well. But it's that multi-censoring. It's that bringing it all together.
Making it exciting and memorable.
And what I always love with you is we talk about this and you bring all these things, these props out, and it makes me think of a primary school with all your props, but you're using these in college. Yes. You're using these with older students. You're using it to engage them. So it's not a childish thing. It works for everyone.
It does.
And we all learn the digestive system thanks to you. And I still know try before buy.
Yes.
Because it's the try something valve before the buy something valve.
Yes. Tricuspid and bicuspid valve in the heart. Yeah.
So really, really important. So, as usual, thank you for coming along today. It's going to take a while to clean up all the random things we have all over the desk.
There's a few.
You should really get a kind of a, what do you call it, affiliate link to people buying these things. You should have a Susie shop on Amazon with all the things that Susie uses with discount links and stuff.
TikTok, that'll do.
That'll do.
Yeah.
But I won't be doing that, but I will be sharing links to stuff you've done, books you've written, and how to get hold of Susie. And as always, you'll find those wherever you listen to the website or on the SENDcast. Listen to the website, listen to the podcast, or you'll find them on the SENDcast website. And as always, if you want to get in touch, let us know your thoughts, suggest topics or anything else, please message us on social media or send an email to hello@thesendcast.com. And if you've enjoyed the SENDcast, why not look into SENDcast Sessions, our online CPD that you can purchase for your school. Each session is £10, but it's yours forever. So you can build up a library of CPD all around SEND that everyone in your school can access when it makes sense for them. You can also access our free SEND briefings, which we do twice a year, and these are designed to help everyone keep up to date with all the changes that are going on in the world of SEND. So head over to the SENDcast website to find out more about the SENDcast sessions. There are over 150 now, and you'll find a link to that in the show notes as well. So thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode of the SENDcast. It's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me and Percy Pig.
Good idea, Percy Pig.
Off we go.